Okay, I have to start by saying that this is the most ferocious amplifier I've come across so far. It's the only amp that my wife has ever actually asked me to stop playing for a while because she's got a headache in another room outside of my soundproofed music room. Now, I've got to say this gave me the jitters because how often can you use an amp that's upsetting your wife or anyone else in the house for that matter, and your own ears. So for the first day or so, I was a little bit taken aback by this, but I've decided that this thing is good enough that I will just play it when I can. It's a bit of a frivolity because I'm probably not going to be able to use it as my everyday amp. I'm probably not ever going to be able to take it anywhere to play because who could cope with that level of volume? It's unbelievable. But what I thought we'd do in this video, first ever video I'm making about this beautiful Magnatone Twilighter Stereo. Okay, I thought I should probably jump in here and just introduce this amp a little bit more in case you're not aware of what it is. So Magnatone have been around for a long time, and then they weren't around for a long time, and they've come back in the last few years, I think with new ownership. Importantly, I think, is that they start their website, like the home page is their pledge to always make the best possible amp they can, and I like that sort of pride in their product. Then they've got two lines. They've got the traditional line and then what they're calling the Master Collection. The Master Collection is actually a hybrid. It's supposed to be sort of more like a hybrid American and British sound, so more EL34 and 84 amps, and with master volume, which is key because this traditional collection, including this amp, the Twilighter Stereo, doesn't have master volume, which is basically what this video is about. How do you cope with that? And on that note, I am considering also getting one of the Master Collection amps. So if you really love Magnatone, you might enjoy seeing what that's like in future, in a couple of months perhaps. But what is this amp? So this amp is basically a 44 watt amp. So it's two 22 watt amps, essentially. It's a stereo amp. So it's got two sets of output tubes, 6v6s, two 6v6s on each side. I'm just looking at the little sheet here. It's got a GZ34 rectifier, which is great. As you know, you can look up the exact specs if you're interested. What I find most interesting is that tonally, it's just got the very simple, mid, bass, treble, which is easy, and they seem to be all in the right spot so far. And on top of that, you've got both vibrato and tremolo. So I believe the FM and AM will probably stand for frequency modulation and amplitude modulation, I think, because the AM, I think that's the tremolo, where the amp basically changes the amplitude to come in and out. And the other one, the vibrato, is the frequency modulation, which is what I think Magnatone are probably most famous for. And then you'll notice there's this other dial that has various ways that you can play this, like mono, stereo, wet, dry, wet, etc., which is great fun, really interesting for recording. I'm not sure how good it is for actually playing live, in the sense that how much difference would it make in the sort of big setting where you could play this amp? I don't know whether that's going to be useful to everyone. Now, this amp is pretty heavy. It weighs 56 pounds. It doesn't feel obscenely heavy, but it's heavy enough that some people won't enjoy that. So yeah, that's basically what this amp is. It's a 2x12, and it packs a real wallop. Okay, back to the rest of the video. It's just to see how quietly we can play and it sounds good. Now, this exercise might be pointless because if you can only play incredibly quietly, there's probably other Magnatone amps you should look at. But I fell in love with this one. When it's cranked up, it's something to behold. And, you know, even with those attenuator earbuds on that really made this safe, luckily, it just sounded incredible and an absolute joy to play. The other thing I want to add is that this you know, feels like a proper boutique amp. I love Fender amps, right? And the difference between a Fender amp, I find, and sort of like the boutique, in inverted commas, amps, is the tightness. There's something about the tightness of it that can actually be quite disconcerting to begin with. It makes any mistakes glaring, and I've been sat here for 2 days thinking this amp is just too good for me because I sound like crap. And I've just had to alter my playing slightly. You could probably see in that intro I was a little bit unsure of what I was playing because it's so loud. That was hitting 120 decibels, which is crazy. But yeah, let's see how quietly we can get this thing and and see if it sounds good. Okay, so I've got to say my plan there had been to set up my decibel meter in front of a camera and, you know, do that really methodically. So I was just warming up, sort of looking at the decibel meter, and realised it was absolutely pointless to sort of carry on with that exercise because this is the lowest volume at which the amp will basically make any noise. And I started with the volume on the guitar on 5, as you heard, went through 7 and then on full. This amp is not quiet. It will not be quiet, and that could be an issue for quite a few people. You cannot... I've got other amps where they're just ridiculously loud when you push them, but at the lower volumes they're really manageable. This one, you know, I get a bit sort of... I lose my perspective because I'm able to play really loud in my own home. You know, I don't have any neighbours on that side that are close enough to hear me, and I've got soundproofing and all of that. But having the decibel meter there, it's obvious to me that you just couldn't use this in most situations, apart from live in quite medium plus size venues, and for recording, you know, in professional circumstances probably would be fine. Other than that, it's going to be a very expensive, loud toy that you get to play with occasionally. Now, for my purposes, that 20 minutes of absolute joy of ripping, you know, on the bridge pickup with that amp on loud is is going to be worth it for me. It's taken me a few days to decide that. I didn't know whether to send this amp back, but it's too good for the soul, you know. And I would suspect that there are smaller Magnatone amps that will get you the same feeling in a much smaller package that's quieter. But I would definitely be testing these things out. Now, just so to give you some perspective, when my amp was on the lowest possible volume and my guitar volume was on 5, you were still hitting some notes, you know, over 101 decibels. As I cranked it up to 7, you were getting 107, 108. And as I was getting full volume, I mean, we're hitting 112 and 13 decibels. So this amp loads itself as soon as it can, and then it basically gets a little bit louder and a lot more compressed as you go through its range. That's the way this one works. I wanted to keep this short today. It's more of a first impressions. What's my first impression? Beautifully built, solidly heavy, incredible high fidelity sound, as it says on the front. I mean, just incredible. I'm sitting here with 2 Rock amps, with my Rift Ainsley Lister, with beautiful hand-wired Fender amps, with all sorts of incredible amps here, and this is up there in terms of sound quality. Maybe, I mean, it could be right up there. We're going to do a load of comparison videos, and I thought what would be fun was to keep each video short rather than doing one big long review. And the way it will work, if you're going to follow along, is, for example, I want to test the tremolo on this amp against my best tremolo amp, which is probably the Tone King, Sky King, and or my 64 Vibro Verb. So that video will be these 3 amps together, and we'll just listen to the tremolo. Then I want to compare, you know, people say Magnatone might have the best clean sound. Well, let's compare it to the 2 Rock Classic Reverb Signature and probably my little hand-wired Fender Princeton, which has a beautiful, warm, clean tone. Then we're going to compare its gain sounds amongst a couple of other amps, probably the Rift Ainsley Lister and the Bloomfield Drive from 2 Rock. And then we're going to compare it as a pedal platform to see if it can really cope, considering how loud it is. What can pedals do with it? So we've got a string of videos that I think could be really interesting, at the end of which we'll have figured out. Because, you know, Magnatone doesn't come with the same reputation as Marshall and Fender in terms of knowing what it's for. What does it do? What sort of sound is it supposed to make? So I'm as intrigued as the rest of you are to find out what is the identity and the character of it all. So yeah, this video has been short and sweet, a small introduction to the amp. There's a lot more to come, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe to the channel. They've got rid of that dislike button on YouTube, which makes my life a lot nicer, I have to say. But I do enjoy seeing thumbs up. Just lets me know that I'm on the right track. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. And let's play out for a couple of minutes. If you're interested, I'll hopefully play something that makes the amp sound cool. All right, see you next time.